So first of all, UFC 283 this weekend. It's back in your adopted country, Brazil, one of the most famous countries when it comes to like mixed martial arts and stuff. How do you feel about that, and what do you think makes Brazilian events different to others?
Just the people, man. Like as fans, when I was there, what I noticed a lot about because they're huge into football as well, and like I went to like 1 or 2 games, and they're just like chaotic, passionate fans as people. They're lovely people, but the two main things in Brazil is like jiu-jitsu, MMA, and football. So they're just very passionate over it. So like, I remember when I was there, like even on carnival days in February, when it used to be, I think they just love it, and they love like when the beer's flowing and stuff like that. So when they announced, and obviously I'm one of the co-founders of Block Assets as well. So we have a few athletes who work for us. So they obviously Glover Teixeira works for us as well. So like we were just manic when it got announced. We were like, oh my God, we need to get some flights there, but flights are expensive.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I presume obviously you've had a look at the cards. What fights have sort of caught your eye? What ones are you looking forward to watching?
Well, obviously I'm a little bit disappointed that Gregory's fight I think he was fighting Brad Tavares. I wanted to see Gregory versus Brad. I think it's been cancelled now, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I read something along those lines. I'm not sure it's been 100% confirmed. But,
yeah, and then obviously a great friend of mine, Munir Lazes, I think he's fighting on the Premier League card, so I can't wait for that one. He's got a tough fight there, so I hope he pulls through on that. I know he will. And obviously the two main matches for me is Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno, and Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill. Yeah. They're the pinpoint fights. And a big shout out to Jessica Andrade. She's been in the UFC for like, I think she's been in the UFC like 8 years now, and she's just a beast herself. So really looking forward to her fight with Lauren Murphy. But the main fights for me is Davison and Glover, and a big shout out to Gilbert because Kamzat's going to beat him again. But I want him to win now because I do like Gilbert.
That's your prediction. And have you see any major shocks on the cards, or you think it's going to go kind of to plan, or it's just unpredictable, isn't it? Sometimes the UFC.
For people who are listening and people want to know my insight on it, I think Brazil is a lot of sometimes what the crowd does as well. The crowd is so like, they can really get into it. They say some things like, oh, vai morrer, which means like you're gonna die. I know it sounds bad, but it's like not as bad when it's said in Brazil, but they say it with a lot of passion. So that can get into a fighter's head. So some fighters that me and you may think are gonna win could potentially lose. So it's one of them cards, I swear, wait till they do a camera live on the crowd. It's gonna be absolutely epic.
Yeah, the Brazilians, they're a vibrant bunch, aren't they, man? When they get into something, they really go hard.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Well, okay, so moving on to a few questions about your own career. Obviously, you've been in the game a long time. You've seen a lot, done a lot. If you could look back, obviously, hopefully you've got plenty more victories to come, but out of the ones that you've achieved so far, what stands out in your mind? The best.
You know what? Like it's crazy because I've been in the game a long time, but I feel so young. I've only just hit 30 now, and they say your prime years are 30s, which for me is great. So, I've had great moments when I've burst onto the scene, when I beat Cowboy Cerrone, and then when I've headlined the Echo Arena in Liverpool, when I fought co-main event at MSG against Calvin Gastelum, when we were the headline, me and Robert Whittaker in Fight Out. I've had so many, even some of my losses, I've had so many memorable moments. And as I say, I feel like I'm coming into my prime years. If I can knuckle down and focus properly, I'm sure I'm going to get even further. But I'm proud of myself for getting to this point, and I'm proud of the people that have helped me on along the way. So, you've just always got to stay humble with that. But at the same time, still walk around with your chin in the air and, be confident with it. So, I'm looking forward to what this year is going to bring fighting wise. That's all I have in my life, fighting. So, I can't wait to get back in there.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Always good to look forwards, not too good to dwell on what's happened. But yeah, you're still making history as you go. So yeah, exciting times ahead nonetheless. Obviously, you know that UFC 286 is going to be held in London. Is that something that you've looked ahead to? And
I did.
I did. Sorry. Sorry, I was just going to say, is there a name of someone you'd be looking to fight there potentially, or?
Yeah, I did. I looked at like, sorry, I cut you off there like 3 times.
That's my bad.
No, I did, yeah, but like I've come back home and I've obviously been here a few weeks now, and I'm sort of in a little bit of limbo mode. I don't know what my plans are, and maybe it might be be a little bit too soon. I don't know. I'm not injured or not necessarily. I just want to make sure I'm in a good frame of mind. You know what I mean? Like, even in that last fight, I felt like I was in a good frame of mind, but there's still some little factors that I want to work on. So, you know, as I say, maybe not. I won't be on this UFC London, but you know, I'm happy for the guy that will be headlining it, Leon Edwards. I feel like he deserves all the credit he's getting because he hasn't had the credit he's been deserving of for the past few years. So I'm happy for that. I think one of my teammates, Tom Aspinall, will be on there. So, you know, it's good time for English MMA. You see so many rising stars right now in it. So they're looking at me and these guys for you know, for inspiration, which is, you know, I love shit like that. So, you know.
Obviously, you mentioned there you've had a few tough losses in a row, but you still look good, like especially against Duplessis in the second round, like you were on top and stuff. So, is there one thing you're focusing on proving? You mentioned there you're looking at tweaking a few little things. Is there anything you're focusing on specifically, or just?
Yeah, I just think that. I mean, the aggression factor, like in the gym, I'm so aggressive. I want to knock people out, and then I get in the fight in the second, and I was having him flinching a lot, and he was just terrified, you know, in the stand-up. And it's like, I should have stopped him there and then, especially with the power I carry. And it's just like, I couldn't let that trigger go. So in my mind, there's got to be some mental things I've got to work on and tweak and twist and turn, not massively. And then obviously in the grappling side of things, I didn't do enough grappling, I don't feel, because I don't know why, actually. There's a few aspects I want to talk about with my team about as well. But, you know, the night's young, as I'm going to say, in my career. So I've got a lot of time to learn and still strive for greatness, which is, you know, what I'm hoping for. Just got to live a clean life.
That's it, man. Stay focused. Yeah, I'm sure. In that fight with Duplessis, you came into the octagon to a song called Tourne dans le vide, which is synonymous with viral videos that Andrew Tate's put up. Is that just a happy coincidence, or
no? You know what? I know he's probably the most controversial figure out there. I've actually known Andrew for a lot of years because he was a fighter himself.
That's right.
Listen, I'll say this to Andrew's face. There's a lot of things I agree with what he says, and there's a few things I don't agree with what he says. But I like him. I like some of the things he stands for. I know he's very controversial. Don't think he's a bad person. And that theme tune for me is just sick. When I've seen some of the viral videos, I'm like, oh, that's a bit of me. So yeah, you know, I know it's one of them topics that you talk about in the comments are gonna go wild.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? It's like you say, it's you've got to weigh it up.
I've always said as well, like, you could literally do a video. You could literally be caught, not do a video. You could be caught on video, giving £1 million away, and there would still be someone out there to say something. So nothing's ever good enough. And I used to host a YouTube channel, Opinions and Arseholes, and I used to say it's because everyone's got one. And you know, it's just that thing, you can't please everyone. So I'll sit here and say I'm a fan of his. There's some things he said that I'm not a fan of, but it's just the way the world works. The world's going to still turn tomorrow if I'm here or not.
No, that's it. Very true. And what do you think of what his recent treatment, being arrested and things like that? Do you think he's being sort of targeted and scapegoated, or do you think it's just something to build the news and build the hype around him?
It's very tough for me to comment because I'm not a guy who watches a lot of TV or the news stuff. I'm not ahead on me politics, stuff like that. So I mean, I don't know who's lying or who's not these days. Like, you know, is it one of these? I think the public, like, should we say the normal person, we're getting more familiar with how the world works because of social media. It's telling us a lot of things. So that's what I think. But I mean, innocent until proven guilty, isn't it? So like, I haven't looked into it too much. I don't want to. I've been so like thingy about giving me opinion, especially on Twitter. I've got like 500,000 people who follow me. I know as soon as I say something, it's going to be this, that. So yeah. I've stepped back. You know, if he is proven guilty, then that's not good by all means. But imagine if he's innocent. You know, there's been so many innocent people put away over the years and been proven. You know, it's one of them things. I don't even want to get into it. You know what I mean?
No. We're not looking to stitch you up. No, but it's interesting to hear your views on it. So yeah, we won't stitch you up. But yeah, nice.
It's sweet.
But let's get back to UFC anyway. It's enough about Andrew Tate. Obviously, with the fact that you spent your early 20s training in Brazil, how did you find it sort of different to training out here? What were the different sort of nuances about it?
Obviously, the weather was amazing there. The food is. I'll actually will get political again now because this is a funny story. It's like when I used to live there. So I found out like obviously America and stuff like that, and we're self-sufficient countries. So, you know, when we go to buy a pair of trainers and it's £45-50, well, they're expensive now. But in Brazil, I remember it was so crazy. I'd go to buy like trainers and stuff like that, and they used to be like triple, like quadruple the price, and it's because it's all imported. But then on the other hand, the food and fruit is so cheap, and that's because they are self-sufficient in the food area. So, like, for me, the two things that stood out straight away when I got to Brazil was the heat, the weather, and the food. The food is just spectacular. You can eat so healthy. You can just taste, the meat and the goodness. That's why they're the best at what they do with the food. But it was that, and then obviously getting onto the main part about things is just training. It was like, every day on the mat there was 20 black belts all gunning for you. It's pretty sick over there. Brazil's a very, very big country. It's more of a continent in my eyes, and there's not a place you could go, or a city or a village, where there's not someone there who's a 10 times world champion black belt. It's just so sick. So that's why I say about this fight card the weekend, it's just, for me, it's goosebump gear, you know what I mean? Like, I cannot wait for this, especially, I'm a fighter, but I'm also one of the co-founders of a huge startup tech company now, Block Asset, and we've got 3 or 4 fighters of our own who are fighting for it. So for me, it's a huge honour to just even be involved with it, and I'm not fighting, you know what I mean? So I'm proud of myself in other ways. So yeah.
Wow. Good on you for branching out into startups as well, man.
I've got to make some money after fighting, haven't I?
Yeah, fair enough. Good point. And so obviously you spent your formative years in Liverpool, and then you've moved to Brazil. If you had to say that kind of Liverpool, which place is tougher to grow up, would you say?
I mean, everyone has the tough lives, don't they? Everyone's got a story to tell. Like when the contestants of X Factor go on, they've all got a story to tell. But I lived in the favelas of Brazil, and it's just, life there is totally different. The favela life, like, I'm not trying to say I was in the favelas, like, but when I've ventured through Sao Paulo, when I've ventured through Rio de Janeiro, like, I've got a close friend of mine who's from the Amazon forest. It is favela. His mum hasn't even got windows on a house. It's like, you don't know poor and poverty until you've been to a place like that. Don't get me wrong, there's lots of riches, but there's a lot of poverty, and that comes back into the political thing again, doesn't it, with stuff. But it's a tough country to make it and grow up, and that's why they're probably so good at fighting. Like, for example, Charles the Bronx grew up with nothing. He's just a killer. So sometimes we need that, like,
it keeps you grounded.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, instead of having like heating on and pajamas when you wake up in the morning, they don't have that.
No, that's true, and I guess it toughens you from an early age. Like, it really builds that kind of steel inside you.
It makes the skin tough. Do you know what I mean? It does. It really does.
How did you personally avoid getting into like sticky situations in Brazil?
I was always in sticky situations. I had my fair share of, like, I remember one time when I was walking through like an unknown favela. I was in another city. I'd just actually fought. I remember this group of guys like sort of collared me and that, and they were like, yeah, white boy and all that in English, in Brazilian, in Portuguese, sorry. And I was like, I don't need this shit now. I was like, they can just have anything. And I was like, they can have me boxies from me for all I care, just get me out here. Because I know what it's like there. It's not like here. People think of consequences here. You kill someone here, you're going to jail for 20 years. Over there, life is a little bit different in the way it's resolved. So, you have to be careful. And for me, I just, at all times, walk with a crowd and be with a crowd. The lads from the gym all grew up in the favela, so they always had my back. But very, very tough setting to grow up in Brazil, I will have to say.
With safety in numbers sort of does help. And getting caught on your own it's not an ideal situation. I've got a question here, and you don't need to feel obliged to answer it, but obviously you got into a situation that ended up with you being stabbed. Can you share anything about that, or is that something you just want to?
No, of course, yeah. As I say, I haven't always been the most plain sailing guy in my life. I've had a very, not tough upbringing, but I've been in some situations, and there was a time when I was training at my gym in Liverpool, Team Carbon, and I was struggling to make money as well, and I was sort of on both sides of the law type of thing. It was not a good place to be, and I was young as well, but I was a terrific fighter, and my coach always knew that. And I got into a situation in a club, and a fight broke out, and I didn't even feel it at the time, but I got stabbed twice in my rib. It was like, I think it was like that much away from like my arteries for me bleeding out and dying. And to cut a long story short, I remember being sat outside the nightclub seeing a light. I'm not a guy who believes or disbelieves in God. I just go with the flow type of thing. But in that moment there, I remember I thought something that was at the light. So I thought, oh, this must be my time to go. and security guard at the club stuck his fingers in my wound and he resuscitated me. He brought me back, type of thing. And you know, it was one of them moments in my life where I thought, wow, that was it for me. The Darren Till, like everyone knows now, like he never would have been.
Yeah.
You know, I never would have had me kids and stuff like that. So it was a brutal moment in my life to change, and I'm hoping to say, you know, I made the change for better. You know what I mean? You know, I've got a house, got kids, got a, you know, beautiful family and stuff like that. You know, I'm a happy man, and maybe that was the pinpoint for me to change. With speaking to me coach, and obviously with it happening.
Yeah. Well, that's a wild story, and obviously we're all glad that it turned out the way it did. It does kind of
take it with a pinch of salt. I mean, take it with a pinch of salt. It's like, it's crazy, but I say to you, it happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, sadly, all too often. But yeah, I mean, like talking about it can help raise awareness to stop people carrying knives. So So, but yeah, going back to the Brazilian MMA fighters, are there any that you've kind of got your eye on that are up and coming, going to be the next big thing in your view?
I think I have to give a shout out to Brazilian para meu irmão Caio Baralho. Tudo de bom. Caio Baralho he's one of the block asset fighters. He's a terrific guy. I love him. I think he's going to make it to the top. I remember before he got in the UFC, he used to always send me messages, and you know, I actually made the connection for him to get involved with block asset through our partners. So yeah, he is the one to look out for. He's a terrific fighter and he's a terrific guy. So yeah, please guys, you know, look out for him.
All right, we'll keep our eye on him. He's one for the future then, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, and then going on to a few questions about other UFC fighters. You mentioned Khamzat earlier. So who do you want to see him fight next after his next fight? We've got Colby on the cards potentially.
For me, I would love to see him get the belt at welterweight. I think he's destined to get that. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't want him to deteriorate his health, like making that weight. You know, he's already a big guy. You know, if he sticks to a strong diet and regime, then yeah, he can make it. He eats fairly well. He trains like a monster. But I would love to see the Colby fight. I really would. But I'd love to see the Leon fight. I do think he gets the win on both. You know, even though I've got a lot of love for Leon. But yeah, the Colby fight for me, that would be a testament to how good he actually is, because Colby's a terrific fighter, but I just think Khamzat in the striking department will carry too much power for Colby as well, and he's too big and strong. So that's a fight. If it happens now, you know, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. Obviously, in recent days, we've had the shock news of Francis Ngannou leaving the UFC.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of took everyone by surprise, didn't it?
Yeah.
But
I mean, if he's not happy, he's not happy. And if he's been able to negotiate a deal to get out his contract, then fair dues, you know. Money's everything. And if he feels like he's not getting paid what he's worth, then, you know, that's on him. And I you know, for me, it's, you know, I've got a good relationship with Dana and Hunter and the guys. Obviously, I'd love to get paid more as well. But it's one of them things I've always said to Dana since I had a conversation with him in 2018. I said, if I ever have a problem, you know, regarding the monies, as we should say, I'll always come to you direct. I'm not one of them guys. I don't want to come out in public and diss him after saying something like that. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm upset that Francis has gone, but I'm sure there's bigger things out there for him as well.
This is it. I think what you said there is admirable. Like, you'd always go face to face and not go behind anyone's back. Would you think Francis is going to kind of try and drum up support for what he's done and try and come back and bring other people to go with him?
I mean, I don't know. Like, would it be good to have other organisations as big as the UFC? Yeah, I do think it would. But at the same time, the UFC is the powerhouse in MMA. We all know that. Dana's a very intelligent man, even though, you know, he's on a bit of a backlash of other things right now. But it just is what it is. You know, I'm happy for France if he's in the UFC or not. I like the guy. I've got a lot of respect for him. And he's a warrior.
This is it. I think Dana said Francis didn't want to re-sign because he doesn't want to take the risk of fighting top opponents. Do you think there's truth in that, or that's a bit of sour grapes from the big man there?
Could be a bit of both, couldn't it? I don't know.
Fair enough. I won't press you on that. But speaking of, one more question about Dana, the media storm surrounding him right now. What do you think's best for him? Do you think he needs to take a little step back and not be at the forefront? Do you think the pressure's getting to him, or he's just that's his personality, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tough, man, because when you're a direct guy, like I've always been very open-mouthed and stuff like that. I haven't been the hot topic of some people's mouths sometimes, but I don't know how to. He's always been a very an advocate for, you know, against, like, I don't know, how should we say it, like abuse against women, or shall I say? I don't know how to. I want to use the right term, the right terminology for the woke brigade get on me. So, like, but
I hear you though, yeah.
Yeah, it's just I'm not that I'm asked anyway. Like, anyone can come at me. Fuck that, I don't care. But like, I'm trying to give a solid opinion about the whole thing. And I think for Dana, I think if he's coming out, yeah, he's fronting it. Maybe there's one thing I don't agree with. He said, "No, you need me. My punishment is all you know about it. You know, there's got to always be consequences and punishment for things you do. That's just the way the world works. No matter what you say, if you're Andrew Tate or what Andrew Tate, saying things, and now he's been arrested, could be thrown up, but actions and even words have consequences. So that's one thing I will say to Dana. But like, who am I? I'm that until I'm 30 years of age. Dana White knows what he's doing and talking about. But yeah, he got caught. We're all human. We all get up to stuff. I remember me and my girlfriend throwing shoes across the living room at each other. We all get up to stuff behind our closed doors. I mean, I think I've had a few plates smashed across me head. It's just the way arguments are arguments. But obviously he's in a club, and you know, especially if you're Dana White, you're getting filmed there. It just is what it is. I don't know what to say on them. I think
fair enough, but
him coming out is good, but you know, it's a serious thing as well. So we can't, like, it can't be condoned. You know what I mean? Like, so
it's a tough one for him, yeah. But yeah, like you say, it's not something that anyone would condone. But yeah, hopefully he'll get back on the path now and leave it all behind him. So
I hope so, yeah.
Anyway, back to talking about UFC and fighting. That's what I know you really want to talk about. Not all this other stuff, but yeah. So Francis Ngannou and Jones is kind of like the UFC's version of Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Like, it's been going in the pipeline for so long, but maybe it will never materialize. Is it something that you hope does? But now, obviously, with Ngannou leaving, how's that going to happen, really?
I mean, it's tough, man. It's like, for me, the best fighter of all time in MMA is John Jones. So obviously they're lining that up now for him in Gain. I mean, if I have to just say honestly what I think Francis's plans should be, if he's chasing the money, go after Fury. Like, go after Fury, get that fight. Maybe he'll come back at some point, but it's tough. It's tough, man. It's a very tough situation to be in for Francis, because imagine if he leaves now and he doesn't get the fight with Fury or some of these big names, you know, then what? So it's a little bit of a catch-22 as well. You know, the situation he's in here. I'm just looking forward to the Jones game fight. Like, what a fight! Like, wow.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you next. Yeah, do you think that's going to be a difficult style for him to come up against Cyril Gane? Yeah, how's he going to handle it?
I don't know, because Francis Ngannou took Gane down, and John Jones is the best wrestler in the heavyweight division now. So that speaks volumes for me. And John's not a stupid fighter to go striking with someone like Gane. He will mix it up. Whereas I still think Gane's a little bit raw, a little bit of an MMA, a striker. So I've got Jones on that one. But Jones has been out for a hell of a long time, and you know, you just don't know in these situations. That's why these fights are so good, because not even me, I can't predict it. No one can. It's great. It's great. It's great viewing. We need to bet on it.
That's what keeps it lively, isn't it? The fact that, like, opinions differ and predictions, no one sees the same fight.
I think what keeps it so interesting as well is you get a guy like me, say like Darren Till, and you get Joe Bloggs from the street, and neither one of us know who's going to win. Obviously, yeah, there's things I can go into detail about, and you know, even Joe Bloggs is probably watching enough fights if he's a massive fan, and he can say things like so. But at the end of it all, Joe Bloggs could win. And then has he got the knowledge? It's just one of them fights. No one's got the knowledge. It's going to be like, it's we don't know who to pick.
Yeah. But you had a fight lined up last year, I believe, with Jack Hermanson, which unfortunately didn't go ahead as planned. Do you see that coming back into the equation this year?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, MMA's moving so fast though. So like 1 or 2 losses as well, and you're right down there, or 1 or 2 wins, you're right up there. It's like, because boxing's different, because MMA is such a quick evolving sport. You can't tell from year to year what's going to happen. Whereas, You know, I've been hearing that Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis are going to fight for the past 20 years. Like, are you going to fight or not? Like, it's not that hard to make a fight. Just get the fight done. Come on, we want to see you both fight each other. Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. We do not care that Joshua lost his last fight. Just fight each other. So it's like, this is what is differentiating us a little bit at the moment, because we are just fighting them all. So, you know, it's one of them things. MMA is just going like that so much right now. It's just such a fast evolving sport.
Like a crest of a wave, isn't it? And the wave just getting bigger. So
easy,
yeah,
honestly.
it's exciting times. Obviously, we've got to get in a question about Conor McGregor because you know he may not be at his prime now, but he's still a big draw.
Oh yeah, of course.
What do you think the future holds for him? Obviously, he's kind of toned it down the amount of times he's fighting, but he's still a big name in the sport, right?
Yeah, I think Conor's been there, done it, made his money, and now he's happy. I know he probably still wants to come back, but I think deep down he knows that it's different now. So, you know, I think that's probably the end of Conor, but he's still their biggest name there was, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I suppose the desire is hard to keep the desire levels at that peak after you've achieved
that.
Yeah. Now we've got the next kind of generation coming through. Obviously, you're part of that, and then your fellow Liverpudlian Paddy Pimblett. You got Meatball Molly. It's a good sort of look for the city to have such prominent fighters, right?
100%. Like, MMA is just on the rise in Liverpool. Like, with us today, obviously the adopted Scousers, Tom and Grundy. It's like there's so much raw talent coming through now, and obviously they're looking to us for inspiration. It's going to be scary in 10 years what these kids are going to be up to. It's wow.
Yeah, the potential's huge. Do you feel a certain like camaraderie with Paddy and the others, like a Team Liverpool type thing, or just
it has to be, doesn't it? We have to stick together. It's only a small city. It's us versus the world.
Yeah, have you heard about these? He's got this Barstool Sports contract, £1 million contract. Yeah, good for him, isn't it?
It means he's a kid from Highton making £1 million.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought of it? Like, it's one of the best things you can do is get into this game and make money like that. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's inspirational for the youngsters coming up, right? Yeah,
100%. It can be achieved. It is possible.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good look, right? We've got a couple of questions about boxing as well now. Obviously, I know that's probably something you did back in the day. Obviously, you've gone the UFC route, but did you ever fancy yourself as a boxer?
I had a few boxing fights when I was a kid. Yeah, I always liked the idea of it. Just for me, the pure form of martial arts, mixed martial arts, was like, it was just the route I wanted to go. Who is the purest form in all these, martial arts? So that was just always on the tip of my mind. But I loved boxing, and I still do. I love it. It's a beautiful art.
Yeah, no doubt. Rumor has it that headline MMA fighters operating under Jake Paul's PFL banner will earn up to 50% of PPV revenue. Seems like a good deal if you can get it. What's your views on that?
I think if he's getting the cheddar, if he's getting the cheese, fair play to him. He's making big waves, man. Everyone's talking about him. Like, so you just got to take your hat off and respect it, whether he can fight or not. You know what I mean? So I respect it if he's making cheese like that.
Yeah, it's big money, man. Have you got any interest in fighting in the PFL in the future?
Maybe, yeah. It's absolutely growing, like, so big right now. Brendan Loughnane obviously just won the $1 million in the PFL World Championship. So, I mean, they're signing some big names as well, even from the UFC. So, yeah, that could happen. Go and make some money there.
Yeah, definitely. I like your style. Don't rule anything out, man. Anything is possible. Yeah,
possible.
100%. If a YouTuber sort of came up to you and challenged you to a fight, would you even go with that?
I mean, that's where the money is right now, so I think I'd have to say yes. Even though I wouldn't want to. It's just where the money is. They've all got the money. Like, we all just have to say yes. Then close your eyes and say yes and sign on the dotted line.
Yeah, but then obviously you'd fancy your chances, though, surely.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, you're born and bred in fighting, right? So
been doing it all my life. Like, come on.
Exactly.
That's what time it is. Do you know what I mean?
Someone that's made their name on YouTube, like they're not going to have that same kind of
different. It's totally different.
Yeah. But speaking of Jake Paul, you obviously respect his hustle, but his actual technique in the ring seems to have improved as well. Do you think he's
I think he's training really hard. I think he is actually putting 100% into it. So again, like, we just have to respect that, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, we'll see when he gets some tougher opponents, tougher fights like that. But for now, he keeps proving the show wrong. So keep making money, keep doing it.
do you think it undermines the integrity of the sport, though, in some ways? The fact that someone who hasn't kind of come up through the ranks the way that you have and the way that a lot of people have is just come and jumped into the top level sort of thing?
Not really, because he's still not fighting the best. Like, he's fighting all these guys who are just over and done with. Like, you know, it's... I still think that when he still gets a good opponent, he's still going to do very well, because I've watched his training and his boxing, and I think he does know what he's doing. I think everyone just likes to hate because he's a YouTuber. Like, people have to respect the grind, you know what I mean? They have to. Got to respect the grind.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, for the public, it's just another fight in a way. It's kind of, the game's changed, hasn't it? Like, now you can't really differentiate between boxing, UFC, and YouTuber fighting. It's just all lumped in together almost.
Exactly. Couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah. All right. Is there any anything you want to kind of comment on yourself? Like,
I would like to say a massive good luck to all the fighters fighting at UFC 283. Obviously, I can't wait for my return, and I know everyone else can't. I'm still the most viewed guy, one of the most viewed, so come on. But yeah, you know, it's just good to chat about these things that sometimes you go through your day without thinking about, or actually putting a good analysis on. So, you know, it's good to get out in the open. And now I'm thinking about who's going to win the John Jones fight, Cyril game fight.